financial institutions and our clients. So we are working with regulatory and supporting institutions like Visa and Mastercard, but we also our clients include CIBC, Australia Post, Bento. Yeah, and if you imagine, uh, you know, uh, there are lots of organizations, especially post offices and other organizations who are or who used to do a lot of payments. So maybe they were paying pensions to people, maybe they were delivering money to people along with packages and so on. We have to link those organizations with modern payment infrastructure. We have to use their global outreach, and all of a sudden, a post office organization, which is a sick organization, uh, you know and a burden on national economy, it becomes a dynamic payment player, a digital payment player. So that's what we have done with Australia Post, and there are many different organizations working in many different domains, from social security to lots of other things, even working with cryptocurrencies. So we have a player who works in cryptocurrency, and they link cryptocurrencies with your conventional credit cards and debit cards and so on. And we are working with someone who is actually linking up your cars and other with payments. So your car is your identity, and you can make a payment wherever you go with the help of your car. So we are building those kind of solutions as well. um, and obviously for our clients, it's zero investment. They just use the solution and make payments as much as they are using the solution for. So we are committed to growth. As I said, we were founded in 2001 in Silicon Valley. Our we have right now we have over 1,200 people working for us in Pakistan, and abroad probably another 700, 800 more. So our many organizations had to struggle in this corona epidemic period, and we have actually grown to probably the double the size that we were year ago. So we have customers in North America, Asia Pacific, Latin America, and so on. An interesting thing about us, there are lots of bigger banks and bigger financial organizations than us. But if you look at how much effort they put into innovation, there would be almost negligible amount of it. Whereas, we being a fintech company, every year we put 500,000, and this amount of engineering almost every week, every month, every year, we bring a lot of innovation. So, we not only operate from Pakistan, but we have operations in Montreal, Omaha. We have data centers in California, Virginia, Shanghai, and obviously we have our business offices in Dubai, Lahore, London, Singapore, Sydney. So it's not only for for computer scientists, for business graduates, for mathematicians, for statisticians. We have for marketing people. We have lots of roles for everyone. Platform. So we do issuer processing. We have APIs. We have billing and settlement, digital and mobile payments, loyalty and marketing, reporting and analytics, acquiring. So these are all the different parts of the puzzles that go into our platform and that work together. You might be using some components. You might not be using other components. We configure them, and our client is ready to go. So we call it Lego-based agile architecture, where we talk to our clients, and then depending on their vision, their requirements, we configure a solution for them that that works just right for them. So these are different domains. If you come to I2C, you would be working with issuing, You might be working with loyalty, you might be working in settlement and reconciliation, or acquiring, or analytics sites. So there are lots of different domains in which our obviously our employees work depending on their role. So from a client perspective, from a cardholder perspective, from the end user perspective, we configure and build the right platform. And why we are best at it? Because we have already worked with hundreds of clients, and we got it right. So we know them better than they know themselves. They might end up, if you want to do it yourself, you might be working for next 10 years and figuring out what the people want, what they need, and so on. Obviously, we focus on engineering excellence, and we do a lot of work there as well. So, okay, and our people are our biggest assets. So let's continue. Let's come to the data science side of it. This is where you are mainly interested in. So probably you now understand I2C better as a payment organization, and a payment organization is a big term, and you got a broad idea that there are lots of different areas where you guys can go and contribute, and probably this a discussion on data science would not only produce a better understanding of data science career, preparing for that, but it would also give you a good idea about the about the business and how you could prepare for it. So one of the things that data scientists probably don't realize is business intelligence, and it's not only the data scientists as individuals, but also organizations and their executives. So what they don't realize is the link between business intelligence and data science. Okay, so in business intelligence, you are typically looking at the past. You are saying, okay, what happened in the past? In business intelligence, you are responsible for producing or consuming reports, dashboards, and every business has their own KPIs. So you have to basically produce those KPIs. You are basically looking at descriptive stats and answers. Okay. Now, if you have this information, only then you can jump into the predictive side, which is the data science. So if you understand what is happening in the past and you have that data, lots of it, then you can ask what may happen in the future. Okay? So if you have data for last couple of years and you have seen those patterns, then you can probably predict which products are we going to sell in July, or which products are we going to sell in basically December, and so on. Okay, if you have the past data, then you can build model for accurate predictions on the past data. You provide these descriptions, and in data science you provide these predictions, and you can move from predictions to prescriptions as well. So prediction is like this this stock price would go to this level. So this might be your prediction. Prescription is that, okay, if this person has if you predicted that this person has cancer, then what is the best treatment for a particular person, depending on their ethnic origins, or their age, their other criteria, and so on. So prescription is the right course of action. So that's very important. So one thing that you should realize is that you should have some skills and understanding for BI, and then using that understanding, you move and you basically produce the data science wherever you need. So data science would obviously be predictions. It would be models. It would be prescriptions, and hopefully complement each other. That's the first important thing that you need to understand. And that's the reason, people say often data science projects don't produce anything and they fail and so on. What's the reason? You just got fascinated with data science and you did not build the BI side of it, and you did not know what are the relevant questions for you for your business, and at the end of the day, after investing a lot of money to produce some models that probably you don't need, you end up losing the hope or confidence in data science as well. Learning data science is not you would learn it in a week or two or a month or doing a few courses. So you have to understand and you have to commit to it at an early stage of your education, and then you have to gradually build it up. Okay, so just give me a minute. My children are back from outside. Just give me a second. Okay. So this slide basically tells you that data science itself has many different domains. You need knowledge in machine learning. So within machine learning, you need to know many techniques, which might be supervised learning, unsupervised learning, deep learning as well. The natural language processing is really, really important. It has a lot of value. You might be dealing with text generation. You might be using text generation with chatbots. Chatbots have a lot of business potential. I'm trying to convince my organization to go for chatbots, and worldwide itself, there are probably now over $50 billion marketplace. Questioning answering systems are coming up. Machine translation is becoming huge. For some organizations like ours, just imagine, dealing with French, Germans, Koreans, Arabs, Mexicans, and everybody else. There must be, I don't know how many use cases for machine translations as well. Okay. Another thing is that, some people think that data science is all about unstructured data. There are others who would think that data science is all about structured data. So we have to understand that the big data that we talk about, it has, it demands you to basically deal with structured data as well as unstructured data. So it's not only the payment data that we have got in our organization, all the transaction, the cardholder information, the campaigns information that we have got in our organization. You also have to do the social listening. You have to understand what people are saying on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and all those channels. You have to listen to the people. Listening to what fraudsters are talking about, what are the trends hitting everybody else. So when you want to deal with structured and unstructured data, then obviously you have got your common data warehouses. In I2C we have got Greenplum, but obviously we put a lot of data on Hadoop as well. Servers, you are not going to succeed. So you have to combine all these things, and obviously there are other domains like expert systems, computer vision, robotics that probably we are not yet dealing with, but maybe in future something might come up. So a data scientist has to learn many of these things. So during your educational exposure at NOMS or any other institute, you might have opportunity is to take up a course in NLP. Another opportunity, obviously, to grab a machine learning course. Uh, you know, uh, any of these. So AI course, obviously. So you have to take up all these components. So this is your Lego world. You are taking all these components, you are combining them, you are, gaining as much background and skills as possible, and then you are building yourself up. So data science is obviously about information retrieval. You need analytics, some understanding analytics. It is possible that you are coming from an economics background or a business background, then obviously you need to learn about different applied areas in business. So domain knowledge is very important. If you are a specialist computer scientist and so on, then obviously you can afford to spend more time and learn about the big data, the cloud platforms, and all the different uh, uh, skills, technologies that we have in big data. You would obviously be spending some time learning about databases and data management. You would definitely have exposure to multiple programming languages, and obviously your communication skills are immensely important. So computer scientists, while they would learn about a lot of technical stuff, they would probably not have as much domain knowledge as we might desire. So the data science itself, it is absorbing business graduates, economists, statisticians, mathematicians, along with computer scientists. So probably our computer scientists would not be that good with statistical analysis. They would they would never be specialized in business domains. So these business guys are very specialized in that, and then they can play more client facing roles and get client requirements about different domains, and then obviously they can do some initial analysis and specialized analysis, and modeling and so on deployments, etc., building the cloud platform for that, the right set of architecture and so on. That would be done by our computer science graduates. So let's get an overview of payment analysis or payment processing domain. So within that domain, when we try to get inside, we do transaction kind of things. We do fraud analysis and prediction. We do anti-money laundering related analysis. We do call center analysis. You do analysis at card program level. So there are many different organizations who have multiple card programs for different parts of the world, or even in the same country, and they want to learn what's when they design a card program, what makes it successful, what are the issues in a card program, how they can improve it, and so on. Then obviously there are billing analysis, portfolio analysis, and so on. So there are lots of different domains within even payment processing. So when you enter into this, you get started in maybe fraud, or maybe call center side of analysis and prediction, or maybe on the NLP side, maybe we would be building chatbots and so on. And then hopefully with time, you might get exposure to the other domains as well. So we have discussed earlier as well. There are at least three types of analysis that you might be doing, or analytics that you might be dealing with. So you might be dealing with descriptive analytics, you might be dealing with predictive analytics, and you might be dealing with prescriptive analytics. So as a data scientist, you should have some understanding of all three. It's not either or. If you don't have any basic understanding about the descriptive analytics side of it, which means basic statistics, and you can answer basic questions with the help of by writing queries or by writing code. If you can't do that, then probably there are people, because I have exposure. I can tell you that there are people who would learn one or two machine learning, start calling themselves data scientists, and they would not understand the difference between a histogram and a bar graph. Okay, so if you if you don't have the basic understanding on how you can do exploratory data analysis, then you can't build a good model. And if you can't build a good model, and if you can't judge how good your model is, then obviously you are not a good data scientist. So that's why you need to understand different types of analysis, use them well to build good models and contribute a lot to the organization. Then the process side is very important. Every domain has its own processes. So data science has its own process. It gets started with business understanding side of things. So you understand, try to situation, you find who are the stakeholders, and then you because you are a data scientist, you go to the technical requirements of things and the project goals, how the project is going to move. Once you have the business understanding and you have uh, uh, basically won the confidence of the stakeholders, then you move and you start doing some as a you know as our process goes, data understanding is key, and a lot of time is spent not only initially but later on as well. When you build a model and it does not work, then it means that there is something wrong with the data that you did not pick up, or maybe you need to look for more data sources or more features and so on. So you need to be familiar with data preparation as well. You need to understand quality issues and how you could fix them, and how you can pre-process this data. Then once you have done these three steps, then you can get started with modeling. The real world is not that easy. You would not have a nice clean data sets on which you can directly get started to work. You need to know the first three steps in order to build a good model. And then obviously you need to understand that evaluation is a scientific process. It's an art as well. So you need to understand how what is a confusion matrix, what does it tell you, what are false positives, false negatives, and so on, what are different performance measures. So you need to understand those. Okay, and then the final is that how are you going to deploy your model. So all these steps, the whole pipeline is important. When you do a data science project, especially as your final year project, make sure that you have done each one of these steps properly, so that at least you have done some work at every level. And once you have done it at every level, then obviously with as you move into the future, your work improves and improves, and you can do better and better work with less and less stress for yourself. If you do bad work, then you create stress for yourself as well as for others. दूसरों के पैसे डूब रहे होते हैं, और obviously आपकी जो है वो you have to do a lot of extra work. And this is not important. Following a process and being mature in that is not only important for you as a professional, for your professional excellence, but this is also important for the organization. There are different organizations and they are at different level of not even doing the trading, and they don't even understand what a dashboard is. They don't even know what are the KPIs relevant to their domains. So those are जिस कहना चाहिए जिन्होंने अभी स्टार्ट ही नहीं किया, ठीक है ना. Then there are other organizations who might have some BI infrastructure there. They might have some dashboards, some reports, and so on, but they have not yet started with the data science. So once you get started with data science, then you start doing predictive modeling and prescriptive recommendations. Okay, अब आप फ्यूचर को देख रहे हैं किसी हद तक, किसी लेवल ऑफ एक्यूरेसी के साथ, किसी लेवल ऑफ मैच्योरिटी के साथ, and you are trying to predict things. Hopefully those things work for you to a certain level of expectation, and you start making some money, you start being successful with data science. once you do that, then you can look into more AI techniques and so on. So you become more mature as you move forward with data science. पहले दिन हो सकता है आपके लिए पॉसिबल नहीं ना हो कि आप कोई मॉडल बिल्ड करें, because the data is there, but there is no understanding around the data, there is no understanding around the business use cases and so on. So once you do that, then you start building models that are needed, and then you basically advance those models, and probably you start going into advanced AI techniques as well. So you basically get started, and ultimately you transform the business at every step. The business gets transformed totally, and that's how it matures. Okay. Now, if business is on a transformational journey, then there has to be an infrastructure for that. Okay. Data scientists are a team of data scientists without, other side of it. Okay. So you might have structured data, you might have unstructured data. You set up processes, you do the data engineering to bring it into a data warehouse, and on that data warehouse, there would be teams of people like BI team, like a data science teams, like data engineers, who would bring the data and then do data analysis and so on, and then obviously a data science team who would start doing the predictions and so on. So without infrastructure, you are not going, and that includes software and hardware both. You are not going to be able to play with the big data. So that's the other side, that you need to have some understanding, some realization, that you have to work with all these tools and technologies, like a Greenplum database, like Python, like R, like C++, like Java, and so on. Maybe Power BI, maybe MicroStrategy, maybe some in-house tool. So you would have to deal with many of these things. So these are your tools. You are working in this kind of environment. So the skill set, here is one view of that skill set. I have picked up that image from Pivotal, which is the company that makes Greenplum, but it shows you a lot of those tools that you might be using as a data scientist. So you might be using some cloud platform like AWS. You might be using Hadoop. Then on database admin side, you might be using pgadmin, PHSQL. You might be using Putty. You might be using some editors for writing your code, like like Sublime, Jupyter, and so on. Obviously, we are talking about that. Python is the language that we use at I2C, but in other organizations, they might use R as well. So at least if you know one of them, then it works. But SQL is equally important. All the business world, they have their data relational databases. And from relational databases, the OLTP system, we move to columnar data warehouses or data warehouses. In all these systems, you are going to use SQL. So even if you are, a business graduate, you need to learn SQL, you need to learn Python. For business graduates and mathematicians and other people who are not computer scientists, obviously, you have to realize that Excel is not going to work for you in this age of big data. So you need to, everybody needs to know Excel, and they can do basic analysis in that. But that's the end of it. When you join a professional business environment, you would be using SQL, and you will be using Python, and you will be using R. So these tools are equally important. The basic exposure to these tools and Jupyter environment. This is very important for our graduates, whether they are business graduates, whether they are computer science graduates. For big data, we might be using Java, Pig, Hive, SQL, and so on. And then obviously data science domain, you might be using. Okay, Madlib is another important thing that comes with Greenplum. So MATLAB allows you to write your machine learning and NLP code right in SQL, and that's really amazing. In big data, what kills you is the moment of data. You know, all your queries and all your analysis is depending on terabytes of data, and you can't afford to move it from one server or one environment to the other environment. And MATLAB basically rescues you. Uh, I think we already know that probably MATLAB is dead. Long live Python and R. So, but maybe some people do use it. And in my times, we were dependent on. I mean, we had two choices. Either we had to use, the stolen version of the MATLAB, or we had to use Java and C++. Uh, in C++ and Java, whereas in Pakistan, back in GK, we used to use MATLAB as well as C++. So we had to use both. But obviously, because I was a career computer scientist, so, during course of my education and training, learning a new language was never an issue for me. And that's how, computer scientists are, and that's how you should be. So, the visualization side is equally important for data scientists. So you need to know a couple of visualization tools, libraries, and you have to do some, some practice, maybe some additional learning in that area as well, if it's not already been part of your academic practice. So within visualization, this is an image from Kaggle. Kaggle is quite a good platform. You guys should have membership on Kaggle. You should do some work on Kaggle. And there are even courses to learn from. Very good courses. I have done them myself as well. So you should do them as well. So you can see that for different types of analysis, this image is telling you that for different types of analysis, you can use different types of visualizations. For distribution analysis, you can use giant plots. SNS is a library that you can use. And then there is a KDE plot, there is a distribution disk plot, and for relationship analysis, you can use bar plot or heat. You can use heat map to understand relationships between different features or variables. Scatter plots are quite good to understand relationships in 2 dimensions. I think you can do it on three. Yes, you can do it in 3 dimensions as well. And then obviously there are swarm plots and this regression plot, which draws regression lines as well to help you understand trends. For trend analysis, you can use multiple, line plots as well. I don't know what's the real name for that, but you can draw multiple lines of our different categories and see the trend. So, understanding visualization, where to apply that, how to do that is really important for data scientists. So you should go into that area as well. Art of data analysis is not only just producing, the chart or graph. It is also being able to understand what's going on. So probably you know about these images. Maybe some of you might, somebody might have talked to you about these. So these are two images from World War II. The the back office of the War Office. So these are the people who have been given lots of. They have been shown lots of planes that have come back from the, after completing their missions, and they have plotted where they have been hit, and they have been asked to give recommendations on what to do, which parts of the plane to strengthen in order to make airplanes safe, in order to ensure that more airplanes can, more fighter and bomber planes can return successfully from the missions. So they did that, and obviously there were lots of smart people in that group, the back office group, which was guiding the War Office, and they, most people gave recommendations that, let's say, Wherever we see a lot more dots like on wings, probably you need to make them stronger. There was one person who differed from that. Can you guess what would be the reason and what would be his arguments?
Maybe he would be concerned about the aerodynamics or the putting weight on the plane.
No, he was not. He was not.
Sir,
उसने कहा
question
कि yep, is there anyone else?
Sir, could you repeat your question just for a participant?
I mean, I said that everybody, the experts, after seeing these images, they basically said that wherever we have a lot more red dots, these are the points where airplane has been hit. The the areas where there are more red dots, these are the areas which might be given more protection, more strength in order to save the planes. So there was one person who differed with this recommendation, and when you have one mental case who says everybody is wrong, then you know what happens. So the whole everybody ganged up on him and said, "ये क्या कह रहे हो तुम? ठीक है, ये ऐसे कैसे हो सकता है?" So that was the scenario, and उसने कहा कि यार ये जितने प्लेन्स वापस आए हैं ये इम्पोर्टेंट है ही नहीं, इसको तुम इग्नोर कर दो, तुम ये सोचो जो प्लेन नहीं आए वो thinking and so on, उन्होंने कहा यार to put more more protection there and more weight there, ठीक है, वो जगह जहाँ पे कि हिट लगने के बाद वापस नहीं आ सकता, ठीक है ना, वो आपके ऑब्वियसली फ्यूल के एरियाज हैं, आपके इंजन के एरियाज हैं, ठीक है ना, कि अगर वहां पे ये है ना विंग्स का जो वो है रोड एरिया है, मैं भी अगर उधर लगती है एक भी हिट तो उसके बाद प्लेन वापस नहीं आएगा, तो जहाँ कोई भी हिट नहीं लगी ना और प्लेन वापस आया है उस एरिया को प्रोटेक्ट करो, एंड ही वाज राइट, एंड recommendations were implemented, and that means that lot more planes were saved. So this is the art of data analysis. So you basically maybe you come up with very clever visualization, and it is actually telling you the story, but you don't have the critical mind to read the very successful data scientist, probably business initiative. Okay, so there might be some business initiative that you have to increase same store sales. Okay, I don't know what that means, but maybe probably it means that if somebody comes to your store, then they so that's where obviously you need business graduates that they go into the understand what the business of the client is, what's going scenarios, the practical things that goes on in the business domain. Then they basically create various scenarios. Okay, so there might be increasing shopping bag revenue, increasing corporate catering, increasing non-corporate catering, introducing new products, improving new products and effectiveness and so on. So they define all these use cases, and for each use case, then basically you have कि आपको उसमें what you need to do that, implement that use case, and how much cost is involved, how much benefit is involved, and then basically you start a whole uh, prediction and data science workflows, BI workflows to basically implement that to get something out of that. So you now understand that this whole effort in any organization's business is a work of a team or teams, which might include business analysts who go and talk to the client about the business initiatives that they might be having. They might propose business initiatives to them, and they might share relevant data with them. They might talk to them about the different scenarios and different developments in their business that they should know of. So these are the people who are not only doing data analysis, maybe they are making use of some predictions, but they are also doing business analysis side of things. Then there are other people who are data analysts. So data analysts and data engineers, they basically collect data from various sources and make it available to other teams. They do all the processing, in the ETL stuff, and they get involved in ETL stuff. Maybe the ETL stuff is part of the BI team workflows, but then they basically analyze the data and look at anomalies and other things. Then there are BI developers who might be involved in producing the traditional reports, dashboards, doing the ETLs and all that. So they do the typical stuff. Descriptive questions जो है आपके उसको हैंडल करते हैं कि यार पिछले 3 महीने में क्या हुआ था, पिछले 6 महीने का क्या ट्रेंड है, सीजनैलिटी क्या है, ठीक है, हर साल समर में क्या होता है, कौन सी प्रोडक्ट्स हम सेल करते हैं, एंड सो ऑन. सो दे हैंडल the traditional stuff. Then we have data scientists. Once you know what are your descriptive questions, okay, then out of those descriptive questions, you might get some, predictive questions. कि यार हर साल समर में ये चीजें सेल होती हैं. Can you predict what is going to happen? How much of these products are going to get sold in summer this year? ठीक है, मे भी उसमें आप टेम्परेचर का डेटा भी यूज करते हो, मे भी आप दूसरा डेटा भी यूज करते हो, न्यू प्रोडक्ट्स का डेटा भी यूज करते हो, एंड यू ट्राई टू प्रिडिक्ट what you are going to do. Maybe you are trying to predict fraud. So BI and data analysts and BA people, they might be doing analysis on the fraud, and the data scientists, they are doing predictions on the fraud. So and then obviously the BA are basically communicating and discussing the impact of those all that work to the end business user. And obviously NLP engineers are obviously also data scientists who are involved in maybe building chatbots, maybe collecting stats from the call center data. So our NLP team is basically because we analyze the quality of each of the calls. And we probably handle thousands of calls every day. So our managers can only analyze maybe 10, 20, 30 or 100 calls every day. So we need a framework that would allow us tools and technologies that would allow us to do automated analysis on hopefully each of those calls. And once we get obviously you usually want to look at bad calls where there might have been some mishap or some fight or some other bad things, or maybe you want to find the quality or effectiveness of your agents. That's another thing. So you want to know if there are certain agents who are consistently handling clients in a bad way, or maybe there are some outstanding agents and they are doing some really good work. So our NLP engineers are involved in call center analytics, and Hopefully, we will be also building chatbots and other things as well. Probably in future, maybe we will get involved in machine translation as well, because our platform has to work across many different time zone, languages, cultures, and so on. So at I2C, we need all these people. And in fintech world, obviously, data science is playing a central role in everything that we do. We need lots of data scientists, BI developers, data analysts, business analysts. So we need all these people at Kaggle. Anybody who wants to be a data scientist, they should get involved on Kaggle as early as possible. So whatever you are doing, probably there is a chance that the data set is already available on Kaggle, and some people have created and shared notebooks there. So you can go and learn from that. You can get started working on them. At certain point in time, you can start competing as well, and you can share your notebooks or just use. You can just uh, copy somebody's notebook and start using it, start implementing it, and they also give you lots of GPUs and TPUs. If you get involved on Kaggle, it's gonna strengthen your CV quite a lot. So we basically encourage and advise students and even faculty to play active part in Kaggle, build a good profile, learn from it, because otherwise you would be disconnected. Your teacher might have given you a data set from 20 years ago, and you don't have any idea that, okay, what kind of data sets am I going to use for HR analytics, for payment processing, for insurance industry, the sort of things that where you are going to get, are mainly for e-commerce, and you want to do some further work on that. So it's a good idea that you start working on data sets that are more up to date, where lots of people are working. So if you work on that, then hopefully that would contribute to your success. So build your career from the very beginning. Don't ignore courses. I have been teacher for a long time. You guys probably know that. And there was always a feeling when we would see our students fighting with their linear algebra instructors, hitting their statistics course, and coming up with lots of complaint about that. And so people usually think that, okay, if I can do one or two courses in some area which is hot, then that's going to make me successful. Unfortunately, this is not how the world works. Okay, so you would be using, your statistical knowledge. You would be dealing with exploding gradients and diminishing gradients, things like that. You have to understand those. कि यार वो एल्गोरिदम एकदम से उसको क्या हुआ है, उसकी लर्निंग क्यों स्टॉप हो गई है, ठीक है, हर चीज 0 0 क्यों हो गई है, ठीक है. You have to understand. आपको पता होना चाहिए कि हिस्टोग्राम क्या है, what's the difference between histogram and a bar graph and things like that. Bias, variance क्या है, sampling क्या है, why sampling is important for you to build a good model. So you have to apply all that understanding that you are getting somewhere in your academic career. So हमें नहीं पता होता कि हमें किस चीज पे काम करना है. Maybe you would we have worked on lots of things, and the reason that we are somebody like me is able to evolve and reinvent themselves is because we have got some background in NLP. हमारे एक टीचर होते थे NLP के back in 1999, and when he used to try to होता है ना वो PhDs का, वो आपको अपनी फील्ड का कुछ ना कुछ सिखाने की कोशिश करते हैं, और कोशिश करते हैं या लोग हमारी फील्ड में भी आए, काम करें. The students hated him. He was the most hated person because he wanted people to work in NLP back in 1999. And that's what we end up, जो हमारे most innovative, most creative people होते हैं, that's what we end up doing to them, because they are well ahead of the team, of the time, and people don't understand them. So they don't take them seriously. They just do a lot of injustice to them. So learn a lot of different things. You might be needing quantum computing. God knows what it is, but this is something that might be the mainstream thing in future. So learn whatever. That's why you get taught all those I don't know 32 or 34 or 35 courses. We make use of everything somewhere. So a data scientist, is really a very learned person. uh, you know, he has very strong learning ability, and he uses that to the best of advantage to whatever problems people are trying to solve. So yes, are there? I mean, I'm open for questions now.
Thank you so much, sir. That was a very detailed and insightful presentation. And now we would be moving on to questions. I've received some of them. So the
Yeah.
first question is, does I2C offer internships for undergraduates? Because you mentioned a lot about them and they seem to be very outstanding, and it would be a very amazing opportunity for people to learn and intern. So does I2C offer internships to undergraduates?
No, we don't. We don't.
Right.
Right now, if I tell you the truth, we are short of desk space at I2C, because we have expanded a lot and we have not been able to yet, increase our physical infrastructure. And I think that's how the world is going to be anyway. Um, मुझे तो लगता है कि अब हमें they won't let us return to offices in future, probably. And that's how the future of work might look like. But unfortunately, we don't have internships.
Right, sir. Also, sir, can you guide the aspiring data scientist students in LUMS or maybe students in the undergraduates? How do they educate themselves about data science? How do they get that education? Should they go for courses like on Coursera or the Data Camp or Kaggle? And how do they actually educate themselves to get employed?
Okay. So, as I said, you have to make very good use of your bachelor's degree programs. So don't ignore, linear algebra, and maybe the other courses dealing with advanced mathematics, like partial derivatives and things like that. Don't ignore your statistics courses. Um, obviously everybody does, I think, machine learning courses, but do look into AI courses and NLP courses as well. Don't ignore your SQL skills. SQL is very important. There are, अगर मैं आपको बताऊं ना, over 90% of wannabe data scientists, they can't write basic queries. But that's a fact of life. 90% of these people, they don't have basic Linux skills. ठीक है, तो अगर आप उनको कहें यार Linux में जाकर डेवलपमेंट कर लो या मॉडल डिप्लॉय कर लो या because your server is going to be on Linux based, वहाँ पे जाके आप because it's a corporate data, you can't get it out. If you want to look at it firsthand, maybe go there and look at run some queries over there. So they don't have those skills. So don't ignore the basic skills, and then basically you can go to Coursera, Udemy, Udacity, DataCamp, and do whatever courses you might need. So it might be an Python, it might be R, it might be some supervised learning, unsupervised learning, NLP courses. So do as much learning as you can. So it's very important that apart from your usual courses, whenever you have time, use these platforms to add a few more courses in your portfolio and build the skill set. Building a skill set is the most important thing.
Right, sir. So we have another question which states, how can an anthropologist or a sociologist contribute to data science or become a data scientist?
Okay. So I mean, I cannot step into your shoes, unfortunately. I am rather too limited. But I can tell you that from my experience over last 20 years, you know, I mean, the word data science might be new, uh, but when I was trying to go for my PhD, people in Cambridge were trying to build, a 3D model of human being, 3D human being project. Uh, People at Imperial, when I went there, they were building 3D models of brain and other parts of human body, lungs, and so on, and they were trying to predict diseases and all that with their help. People, and in those teams, the reason I'm telling you, in those teams, obviously those teams were assisted by anthropologists, surgeons, doctors, and so on. They were assisted by physicists, as well, because one of the some of the work that obviously goes into these kind of things, you have to develop machines and you have to improve their capacity at scanning, and maybe you are experimenting with new ways of scanning as well. So uh, you know uh, uh, what I'm saying is that it is not uncommon for experts from different domains to learn the basic Python and uh, basic modeling and exploration skills that are needed to explore their data and start playing with it. And obviously, if you are going to make a judgment in a specialist field, uh, social sciences or whatever, you know, you are not, you cannot make a judgment, you cannot make an evaluation, you cannot treat the data in right sort of way without involving these people. So, they might not skills. If you start consuming your own data, and if you have good teamwork skills, and if you have a worthwhile project that is being funded by someone, or maybe yourself, or maybe an organization that want to work on that to improve health, education, uh, or any other social aspect of our lives, then obviously you become part of at least partly data scientists, and over a period of time, some of these people become really good data scientists in that domain. I mean, they become leaders because they have the knowledge of health, sociology, or any other domain, anthropology, and they have the knowledge of at least some of their data science, or they are able to work with data scientists, and that makes them leaders. Um, doing groundbreaking innovation and contribution to their domain.
Sure, sir. And can you share some interesting project ideas for people starting out in NLP?
In NLP, I think most of it is probably already known. So people are building chatbots, machine translation projects, text summarization. People have been working on financial data for a long time. They are doing analytics and prediction on IPOs and filing and all that. Yes, I think probably what, and obviously we are working on, we already have, what we used to dream of, like, producing poetry, producing, uh, you know, uh, जिसको कहते हैं Picasso style की paintings. So we are already doing that. We are already writing at least small stories, if not a novel, in Shakespeare style. So we are already doing these kind of things, and ये तो जिसको कहते हैं ना, वो फेक वीडियोस को हम क्या कहते हैं आजकल? जो आजकल हम फेक वीडियोस प्रोड्यूस करते हैं.
Deep fake.
Deep fakes. So we are living in the era of deep fakes. So I don't know. मेरी imagination में या उसमें नहीं आता कि कोई इससे भी आगे कोई चीज कर रहे होंगे लोग. Definitely, things are happening. So the state of the art is things like GPT, BERT. So this is the state of art in NLP, and probably we can move beyond that as well. ठीक है. मेरा ख्याल ये है, what I think is कि जो data driven AI है जिसको हम data science कहते हैं, probably we can move beyond that as well. Probably we can, start creating things which never existed before.
Yes, sir. And would you like to talk about a particular challenge that you face in like workplace regarding data science and how you overcame it?
So in data science, typically, there are 2-3 different challenges. So one of those is building the right infrastructure. So it takes time and effort, and obviously, you can't invest on $1 million server if you are not producing value. So we basically started with used servers, and we started building, combining them as MPC infrastructure, and by building a parallel infrastructure, we were able to do a lot more computation with 5 years old servers, which were not even having GPUs. So the teams got started with that. And the other side of the problem is that your organizational workflows are not supporting you when you get started with a data science project. So you have to basically then work with other teams, and initially it's difficult to do because you are not giving them anything. ठीक है, अब आप लोगों को कहें कि यार वो फ्रॉड ट्रांजैक्शंस को लेबल करना शुरू कर दें आपके लिए, probably they will not doing it, वो उतना ज्यादा आपके लिए नहीं करेंगे क्योंकि you are not giving them predictions, and if they don't give you the data, you can't give them predictions either. So we overcame these challenges gradually, by obviously with time, by labeling data ourselves, by using unsupervised techniques for labeling data, and gradually, because we build tools for them to label data easily. So now team is getting more data, and hopefully they are building better models, and their models are going into production, and they are getting consumed by the end user. With success, you get more recognition and you get more support as well. So gradually we are getting more support from all the different parts of the organizations. We are getting better servers, better machines, GPUs, and hopefully that would, any system is not built in a day. Rome, even if everything is known, even then, it takes months and years to build systems. And with data science systems, these improve incrementally as well. As you understand data better, as you get more data, and as you understand limitations of your existing model, you improve them, and then you get to the next stage. Probably 6 months from now, we might be able to understand new types of frauds that we never understood before. Maybe one day, we might start, picking up on fraud patterns that are not yet even being recognized by humans. ठीक है, so maybe we वैसे तो स्पीड में तो आप ह्यूमन की कैपेसिटी को सरपास कर जाते हैं, but making a new move, that was not even imagined by humans. Probably we can get there as well.
Thank you, sir. Can you please also briefly talk about auto machine learning and artificial intelligence, and what is that technology and what is the scope of that in Pakistan?
So AutoML is, is the thing that is going to probably disturb data scientists quite a lot. So, I mean, we are lucky that we could work for a few years as a data scientist, but you are being challenged and made extinct by AutoML in some ways. So, AutoML is that you can automatically discovers the models that you are going to need to solve the problem, and you might be able to discover their best parameters as well. ठीक है. So AutoML जो है ना वो machine learning को automate करती है, while we automate everything else. So AutoML automates the work that we do. I think at the end of the day, what AutoML would do is, it would make your life easier. That would mean that a lot more people from different backgrounds would be able to, build models without having a technical knowledge in that domain. ठीक है. So जिस तरह BA के लोग हैं, marketing के लोग हैं, HR के लोग हैं, they would just take their data and use some UI and feed that data into AutoML, and AutoML would build the right sort of model for them, and they would do some exciting predictions and they would be really happy. I guess that's what we want to do. अगर उससे ज्यादा का कोई काम होगा तो फिर डेटा साइंटिस्ट के पास आएगा. इस लेवल का काम डेटा साइंटिस्ट के पास नहीं आएगा. That's what AutoML is.
Thank you, sir. We enjoyed the session a lot. It was very insightful, very thought-provoking, and learning from the very best and the senior. It was a very good experience for me and for the members as well. And so this brings us to the end of the session, and we really thank you and appreciate you for your time. And we enjoyed a lot, sir. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me, for having me. I hope it's good for you, and let's hope we meet again. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thank you so much. Thank
And
you.
thank you for everyone for joining in as well and listening to this amazing talk. The participants are free to leave now. Paragam, are you there?
Yeah.
Let me. Motashim, would you like to say something, or should we end the meeting?